Mic trigger.
So I'm here with
Mic trigger. Mic lock. Finish record. Mic lock. Button is on. Double tap.
Charles Whitman, and we were talking from the way home from the pub about doing this amazing Tales from the Vaults interview. So, first of all, Charles Whitman, talk about your upbringing, because it was very interesting. Right, so my mother, when I was 8 years old...
One notification. One notification.
Hold on.
WhatsApp. Now. New mummy. Very good. God bless XX. Button.
Gotta read that on there. So go on, your mother. My mother, who was called Corinne, she had me to a boyfriend. And basically, because the family knew, I had to live in a flat till I was 8 years old, until I could go and stay with my aunt and uncle and cousins. And then, when I was 15, I just left school, had a really hard time and everything. And my uncle and my brother, my brother basically, he brought me up till I was, I went and lived with my brother. He brought me up till I was 16 then. It was my uncle and my auntie, and they were really nice. Well, they were strict but nice. So he left school at 15. I left school before anybody else did in my year, because I was getting very heavily bullied by people in my class, because they found out what my mother was. And in those days, it was a lot more different, because you didn't have the internet. And I think they found out because in the local phone directory, 1987, they'd found out from the local phone directories, because my mother hadn't been blacklisted. She thought she had been blacklisted, because the flat was not in Southport, would you believe? It was in Liverpool. So all the Southport kids knew. Maybe some of them got because there was a lot of people that had relatives in Liverpool. They must have had the Liverpool phone directory. And when they put St. Anne's Square Convent in, where my brother Roger went to, when you put St. Anne's Square Convent in, and you've only got to know there's a link between me and my brother, because they thought that me and my brother had fallen out and all the rest of it, and they're trying to put sort of 2 and 2 together to get sort of 7. And they never did. But my mother, Corinne, at the time, she had postnatal depression after Roger, and she never really dealt with it that well. So 15, I went off and I was gonna basically get a trade. And in those days, when my parents, they wanted me to get they wanted me to go into law. Like my other brother, R. Leonard, he became like a solicitor or an accountant. There was only Eric Gleneth who was allowed to do what he wanted. If Eric Gleneth wanted to get a trade, which I don't think he would have done, because they didn't want, and they said, "Oh, why don't you be an accountant or something like that?" And I didn't have the skills and the mindset. And I went to work in a factory for a month before I worked in the joiners, but I went straight in the joiners and I fitted right in, I learned to ride motorbikes. I went on some fantastic adventures and learnt a bit about life because I'd left home at 16 and it wasn't very different to now. Yeah. You think of the internet that people have got now, this wonderful technology that the children have got today. It might not be so wonderful for some, but we went and on farms and stuff like that. Weekends you actually went out and did stuff. You actually went out places and experienced things. You went and got, there was record collections, there was books to read, there was films to watch. You went to the cinema and flirted with the odd occasional girl. Yeah. And that was the thing, you met girls or boys or whoever, and kids don't do that now. They just talk online, but, it was a very different world. And you had to know, I didn't get I got a mobile phone in 93. But before that, I used to use the local payphone because I had a card that you used. And so it meant that once you put the card in, you paid what was on the card, a bit like a top-up thing. And you paid on that. And so you could call and speak to whoever you wanted for however long you wanted. So we used to, there was the payphone at the end of the street, but there was so many different things. We used to go to all these dodgy little backstreet places. There used to be pubs everywhere. People used to go to the pub a lot. And I remember we went to this pub and this man had put whiskey into, I think it was a cow's skull, or was it a welly? That was it. It was a welly. They used to drink pints out of wellies. Straight. They used to do all stupid things like that, pints out of wellies, and it was whiskey out of a pig's skull, something stupid. And then we used to go with me and my mates, a couple of lads, we used to sneak into the working men's club. Yeah. And he used to have a card to get in. And they used to say, yeah, get in. And he used to let us in. And one night, I felt a hand on my shoulder, and he says, you're a joiner, aren't you? And I said, yeah. And he said, well, tomorrow, he says, you come into the local gravesite. He says, the, he said they had this coffin they were bringing out, but they wanted it nailing shut properly and they couldn't do it. And they had the stonemasons there and everything. And they were doing that, and then when we did that, there was a bank up the road. Oh my gosh. And someone had broken into the safe. So we had to put the hinges back on the door of the safe. There was all kinds of things going on. Those sort of things. And then we had weird little motor cars and everything. And then I was in the back of someone's car one day, and they said, why don't you learn to drive? And I thought nothing of it, because I was a motorbike person. I drove motorbikes. Cars weren't really... Trikes were all right, but, you know, something with a fourth wheel on just wasn't... It wasn't thought of. So one of the lads said, yeah, you can try around in a because they were talking about a Robin Reliant, but they said, no, he can do a Wolseley Mini. They said, it's like a Robin Reliant, but it's a Wolseley Mini. So I drove around in this Wolseley Mini uninsured, right? And I never used to speed in that thing because, well, it was scary enough going a straight line, but you go round corners, when the car tips over, and the car tips over. So I said, you know what, I will take me test. And
Two notifications.
in the
Two
early,
notifications.
must have been late 80s, early 90s, yeah, I took my test in this bloody Morris Marina van at late 80s. I think it was 87, 88. This says, oh, take your test in this 1987 it was. Took my test in this Morris Marina van. And once I passed my test, I got my first car. And it was very scary. The most frightening thing. But even more frightening than that was you couldn't really see much out of the windscreen because the engine was that big. So you're sat down. I had this hot rod. My uncle got me this hot rod. Well, he'd done it up. And you can imagine, I'm sat down there in the cockpit, and all you can see is the engine all the way up there. I mean, kids today, it was on, the engine was just fixed down on a couple of pallets, you know. And kids would be absolutely they wouldn't even drive anything. You know, they wouldn't even drive anything like that, let alone so anyway, that's story. And we swapped the engines out. It was this hot rod. And it was fun. And we used to race. We used to race along the beach, and there was one of the lads. He had an Austin Maxi. Another lad had a Sierra Cosworth. And one of the lads who came with me, they called him Mad Max. I can't remember why. And Big Ted. And I said, there was a massive sand dune, right? And I said, should I jump it over the sand dune? The lad's like, yeah, go on, go on. They were more nervous than me, right? And I jumped the car over the sand dune. And I nearly broke the suspension spring, but luckily I was all right. And the engine never fell apart and nothing. The best story I've got about it is when I was chasing this Golf GTI, which I never knew I was gonna get a Golf GTI. So what I did was, bear in mind this car had no power steering, nothing like that, right? And this was an old car, so it had no fuel injection, but twin carburetors. Oh, gosh. So what I did was, I realised if you got the carburetor, the timing in the carburetor, get the old clutch out, to the exhaust, straight off, and the car just shot off. Oh my gosh, just shot off. It came into life, and I had no. It was strange because the turbo was just about working on the engine. We tried installing a turbo on it. That's another story. We tried installing a turbo. We put like a big belt on the front of the thing, got a big valve and tried putting a vent in. And the thing you should never do is put water in the oil, which is what we didn't do because we'd seen other people do it. But the mistake we did do was put oil onto the one of the vents to let in, which disturbed the carburetor, which blew off the turbo, which capped it basically. It did ruin the turbo, and it damaged the belt. It didn't blow the belt off, luckily, but it was a massive bang. And one of the main problems with that car was the leak to the exhaust, which is another story, but but anyway. So I takes the car to the scrapyard, and this is after we'd swapped many engines, many exhaust pipes, and we decided, well, a new car is a new car, basically. And I saw this Mini Special, which is my second car, and oh my gosh. Well, that car was a car. Let's put it this way. It was a babe's car. I mean, what could you drive in a bloody babe's car? So talk about your houses, because you had some amazing houses. Oh yeah, well, when I went to the plumbers after I'd been the joiners, because I'd lived literally with the joiners. I had my house sort of connected onto work, which is a bad thing, of course. Because you walk downstairs and hello, boys and girls. I've got a funny story about the secretary on the staircase, because in those days you had steps down, and then as you got to the bottom of the stairs there used to be a hatch, which looked out onto the desk. That wouldn't be allowed now, of course. And the secretary used to come in, and you used to go down, and you used to look through the window, shall we say, that looked out onto the main desk. And one day, coming down the stairs, I saw this lovely girl there, and I said, "See how, darling?" She was a bit drunk. She had a few whiskies, and I said, "You can just fall asleep at your desk. I'll just let you in there and fall asleep at your desk." And she didn't fall asleep at her desk. She fell asleep on the stairs. Oh my gosh! And she was basically married to one of the fellas that owned the joiners, not the guy who had it. That's another story. And she was sleeping on the stairs. Oh, we'll put it like that for the for the podcast anyway. So, because they all wondered where she was, and she was coming down the stairs in a dressing gown. And I says, "Yeah, I'll just put some clothes over that." Just throw that over that, and then when you're done, come through there, throw the dressing gown in the thing, and then just go through that door. But sadly, her husband drove up in his car. So she had to, she went out and they said, "Come through the door, throw the dressing gown," and next thing, I feel his hand grab hold of my shirt, and he's going, grab hold of me, he says, "If you bloody try that again, I'll have you over the bloody..." I can't remember the exact words, but anyway. And so, and then there was the fella's wife who owned the joiners, and they'd been fantastic to me. And the next thing, before I leave, just weeks before, I'm sleeping with his, let's put it this way, I had his wife underneath the desk, and let's just say it did not end well. So I'm at the joiners, and they said to me, "We're moving down to London," because we're in Lytham St Anne's. In fact, that where the joiners is, or was, is now 3 private houses, and they look lovely. and the farm, the backs onto it, is now, I believe there's a gym there. I'm not entirely sure, but as you go across the road, the where the son lived, that's now a cafe, or I think it's a takeaway or a cafe. I'm not entirely sure. But anyway, and
Three notifications.
the daughter's now got oh bloody hell, she's now got a garden centre. Yeah, she's got a garden centre, and it's one of those where you go in and they got a cafe, and actually no, they've not got a cafe there. I think she's got a bar there, I think. Yeah, because I went to a soiree there with a friend, but then that's another story. So they said they were going down to Plymouth. And did I want to go with them? And I said no. And they said, well, you can take the joiners on and have the house. And I said, no, thanks. Because the business was worth about £2,000, money I never had. And anyway, they still gave me a cheque for £4,000. That's another story. So I then moved out of there, and I went to a plumber's in Southport, which is now, well, it was basically, they'd worked for the corporation. So people could go and work for the corporation. Now, if you work for the corporation, it's a pretty shit job, because you're living in council's pockets, basically. But the corporation were arseholes, because I'd actually been in and had my dealings with the corporation anyway. So the corporation plumbers, they were just owned by the corporation. And the boss for them, you queued up and you had a queue. I didn't know it was corporation. Yeah, it was corporation. And no, there was no problem with Peter O'Toole. He was lovely. And Cunningham. Anyway, all the lads there. One of them, went to be a top professional footballer. Would you believe? He went to play top professional football for what's that? Fulham. I think it's Fulham. Anyway, so I went and I had enough money to buy a house, and there was a house in Liverpool, and oh gosh, it was run down. And I had a friend who installed the pipes in and everything, but instead of having metal radiators, it had wooden radiators. Wooden radiators. Freezing cold house, right? And in the bathroom, we had a gas boiler made out of lead. Good Lord, it's pity I wasn't for lead poison. You nearly said an F-bomb. I never did. Anyway, and the gas boiler was right above the bath, right? And I'm not just talking in the loft. I'm not just talking in the ceiling. Oh no, we're talking about a boiler right above the bath. Yeah. Literally, like, you know how people have showers over baths? Well, it was like that. Boiler over bath. Oh my gosh. You know, so you're sat in the bath, la-di-da, and you think nothing of it. And even now, to this very day, I have thought about that. I thought, bloody hell. I remember when I had a boiler, because I had a shower over the bath in one of the other places where I was. And I thought, oh, crumbs. I mean, Steve's got an electric shower in there. Yeah. And his mum's got a shower in her bath. That's a hose. Well, still, a hose over the bath. And I'm thinking, bloody hell, that's how far my boiler used to be. I mean, if gas leaked into the bath, or if a bit of lead, right? And the toilet was sort of, oh, don't talk to me about toilets. And the toilet was literally just a hole in the floor because it hadn't been screwed in properly. And you had rats and mice crawling in. It was totally another world. I had a mattress with holes in. The cooker. I'll tell you now, the cooker. People would cry if they saw. Kids today would cry if they saw this, right? So you can imagine this is 1990, right? I had a stove with slates on, and I was literally cooking on a slate. And I had to put petrol on the thing to light it, and then I had to put the slate on top, and then I had to put the pan on top of the slate. Seriously, that's how I cooked. Gosh. But you know, you cooked your food, you went to the pub. Sometimes you bought fish and chips and wrapped up in a newspaper. We lived a different life, you know? We lived a completely different life. So I left that plumber's 2 years. I left the house after, and I went to live in this boarding house on St. James Street. It's not there now. It's people have taken it on. It's now a bar or a club or something. But back then it was a boarding house, and it had 2 flats in it. I didn't live in the flat. I lived on the top floor. I had a bedroom. I did get the flat towards the end because the lady who had the flat, she moved out. Because a bit like my mum and dad in Virginia Street when they had they had a kitchen and that upstairs, and yeah, well, people did. And in you know, it was a thing for a while. These people in this boarding house, they had a flat, and they had a kitchen. They had their own private toilet and everything. But we used to use the toilet, and we used to pay 40p. It's a funny story. But the lady who had it, she had a butcher's shop. Not a butcher's shop, she had a newsagent's. And she only lived in a flat. She had quite a few houses. And she used to throw us Christmas parties, and she used to make us cake and everything. And then she had the Sycamore Hotel. And after that, she sold the boarding house off. By then we were moving on, because I'd moved to Chippington's Court in 93. Oh yeah, because you were in the Plumbers, weren't you? Yes. So the Plumbers was at 35 Leyland Road. I've said an address, haven't I? It's all right, you're fine. Well, at the back, there used to be workshops. And I said, oh, I'll see the boss. Danny the boss. And it wasn't what it is now. Totally different. You met Captain Scaresbury, didn't you? Yes. We did some work for the Scaresbury estate. We did some work for Meals Hall. I played the piano there. This podcast's gonna come on a treat, I tell you. Well, so I came down, and obviously Danny wasn't here. So I knocked on the door, and this lady answered. I didn't know it was Nell. Yeah. She didn't really say, oh, my name's Nell. She was just this random lady. This random lady who we were going to meet. No, if someone said, because when I worked with Steve in 2000, we started in 2000, and then 2002, 2003, I came here to do some work, and I thought, I know this place. And then we came to work here. Yeah, we did. That's another story. So, yeah, and so Danny wasn't here, so I thought, all right, I went to see the foreman at the bottom. He says, oh, I'll be here tomorrow. Come tomorrow. And he says, you'll have a job. So I came tomorrow, and I came up to the door, and Danny answered the door, and he says, oh, we're going to Chippington's. He says, but if you don't mind, he says, go see the foreman, tell him I've sent you. And he says, tell him that you've got to move that rubble at the bottom of the garden. Yeah. And obviously, now Danny, there's some spare land that backs onto here, which it goes all the way down, but there's some spare land. You kind of see it. Steve's shown you on the videos. Yeah, I showed you on the intro video, which I've had to put a spare video before we did this. Yeah. Well, on the bottom of the garden there, it goes on. There's land over that fence at the end. Danny wanted that land, and he was going to build offices, workshops. There was going to be all kinds there. But he wanted to build a caravan site as well. That was his plan. He wanted to... There's all kinds he wanted to do. I can't remember all the ins and outs, and I saw all the plans. And I personally got planning permission through, because the planning permission went all right, but obviously he didn't go through the right channels. Yeah. So... So there you go. That's the story of Danny not getting that land. And we learned to upset Nell through an argument he had when he was here, and basically mentioning that he wanted to... Well, Danny wanted... Because they had the office in the utility room, but that was only the wages bit. Well, it became the wages bit because they were going to build another office there. So, but we've seen a letter to Danny. It said, "Dear Danny," how'd it go? It's very sorry we have to fall out on these terms. See, I think Nell was one of those people. Yeah, and she did mention, she just, she got all the words right and everything. But it was, So, I moved to Chippingtons, and I was there for a while. And then I fell out with Danny over pay. That's a bit personal, like. And then I went to Wales one weekend, and I met this fella called Jack Anderson, this man called Jack Anderson, and he brought me to Southport and promised me a job. And in 2000, Steve had this all singing and all dancing office set up. And I was the salesman. You'd driven lorries though, hadn't you? 2 years before, yeah. I was driving lorries. And I was going to go back and do work for Danny. But I found out he'd gone bust, so... That wasn't me. I wasn't going to go back and make my peace with him, was I? I did make my peace with him, though, because he came back to work for us again. That's another story. And I came to work for my friend Steve. Do you remember when we first met? What it was like? Yes. It was very chilled, very gelled, very sort of mellow. Then Jack wanted us a bit of drama going on, didn't he? Yeah. Do you know that time we stayed together, we had... And you were reading the paper at 2 a.m. Yeah, I used to read the paper at 2 a.m. And Jack had a problem with it, didn't he? Jack had a problem with everything. Jack had a problem that I was married to a lovely young woman called Daphne, who passed away. Well, she's been gone now she'll have been gone for 2 years. Yeah, because I thought we'd talk a little bit about depression in this, if you don't mind. Yeah. Because you were married... We'll talk about Daphne in a minute, but what were your impressions on first meeting me? Because I remember you when I first met you, you were a young man, you used to climb up buildings like, oh, yeah, well, it was just a Jack the Lad, sort of thing. I was a very showy off character. You were very, you had that, and everybody thought, oh, well, Charles was this, a lot of people didn't like you because you were rebellious. But Ellis, he was, I won't say jealous, but, well, I'll tell you a story about Ellis. So when I worked as a plumber, he had one of our apprentices left and went to be an electrician, right? And they went to work at this house. And I didn't let on I was there. And Ellis he let on he was there. But I didn't let on that I was there. And Ellis used to have that little van. So I went on, and this is when we had Mickey working with us, little Mickey. That's another, oh gosh, I could tell you hundreds of stories. But anyway, so Ellis said, right, this lad, he's, and I says, Ellis, I says, he doesn't know how to be an electrician. I says, you're going to have to let him off lightly. I says, he's one of us. Ellis goes, what do you mean he's one of you? Oh my gosh. No, what do you mean he's... Ellis doesn't know that I've told you this story. What do you mean he's not one of us? And I says, he's not a plumber, not an electrician. He's a plumber. He says, right. He says, I've got a problem with that drain. So what we did was we clogged this drain up on purpose. Next minute, he's pulling all the weeds out and everything. So I told you, he got it sorted in it, But that's the story of Ellis. And we were playing cricket that day. Ellis was a laugh, We were fooling around, and that's how we got on. I don't think he worked for Ellis very long, because I think he was one of those young lads not very interested into what he was doing at the time, which is sad really, but yeah. So because a lot of people saw you as this quiet salesman in the office. Balls to that. But I was never in that bloody office. I know you were getting out, and I was helping a lot of the other people. It was Jack, you're the salesman. Tell Charles he's the salesman and he's to sit in the office. And what moved on from you being salesman was when you helped Travis with that job. Yeah, I helped Travis with something, and the next minute I get the fax through. Tell Charles to get out and do that job. Yeah. And you done some work for a girl, which you won't talk about. Yes, I had. I'd done some work for a girl. And the mayor had heard wind about it. The mayor of Birkdale. And he says, oh, good chap, get him, blah, blah, blah. Next minute, I'm working at the town hall. Which was a waste of money because the council filled it in. Yeah, where those fountains were, that's where the well was. But you see, builders' offices, we were very, very quirky building firm looking back, because we did so many amazing things. Well, it's strange because I've seen that cupboard in the utility room.
Well, we had the electrics put in.
Yes. Well, under there, because I went into it to check, and there was that mistake where I'd wrongly drilled. So that's still there.
See, I wonder, because oh no, we're still on recording. It's a good job we didn't have beer in us.
So, obviously working with Steve, it was fantastic because I was just this little salesman, as people said. And then when I got to being a builder and getting out and stuff, by 2005, 2003, things was different.
They were.
Well, it was 2002, October 2002. I had met a very young lady.
He was going out with Dave Johnson at the time.
Yeah, and there was a few between me and Dave Johnson because we were cousins. That's another story. And so yeah, I'd had his bird, and who was actually called Kim, but that was her protection name. Her real name was Daphne.
And Jack knew her.
And Jack knew her.
4 notifications. 4 notifications.
And she was working for us.
And Jack didn't like her.
And Jack, well, everybody loved her, including me. And I proposed to marry her, but that was a bit of a problem.
It was.
So we didn't get married till 2003. And when we got married, oh, what an amazing time we had. Was it 2003? Yeah, it was.
Did you have to check?
I did. I had to check that it was. Not 2004. No, it was 2004 we got married properly. Yeah, because we'd had to wait for the Ministry of All Things to sign this blooming, when they did signed marriages and signed divorces. We got pardoned, I've got the documents somewhere. We got pardoned by one of the high courts of the Ministry of All Things. There you go. We got married. And I wanted to get married traditionally in a church, but unfortunately, when things happen and you get protected, and I got ministry protection.
He didn't get a condom. That was later. Sorry.
Well, but anyway, so the marriage happened, and
Dave Johnson, he got married to his woman that he
divorced, then married, then divorced, then married. Yeah. I don't know if he's married or divorced, and I don't even care.
So, you were wed to a woman, and that was change, a new chapter in your life, because you weren't just this singleton living in a flat. Oh, we forgot to mention Anne.
Yes. You want to talk about Anne? Living hell. There you go. We met.
Where did you meet this Anne?
We met in a church. That's all I remember. And she wasn't. She was a cat. We were in Manchester, and she came to Southport, and she stayed with me for a couple of days, 3 days, and then her brother came down, and her brother stayed with her. I mean, I slept with her for one night, but it meant nothing. And she took me to court and got every penny off me. The little witch. Anyway, yeah, a new woman in the life. And by the way, Daphne, she changed. She was a new chapter for the company builders' offices because we didn't have women in the office except for Nana. Yeah. Unless Nana had was a man. Yeah. Sorry, Nana. Yeah. Oh, if she was alive, she would have been absolutely mortified. Anyway. Yeah, having a woman in the office was different, I think. Steve liked her. He'd been chatting to her in chat rooms because Dave Johnson was his friend, his friend's friend, but also his friend. Yeah. And I couldn't stand between them. And he was living at his dad's house. So, but I couldn't, because it was to do with Steve's dad and that arrangement, I didn't want to interfere. I let his nan do all that. But having a female in the office, she definitely changed the tune, because even though there were fights and squabbles and shouting and yelling and Bernie and Travis and all the rest of that, it was a very different having, Daphne in there and a woman to talk to in the office. Yeah. I remember one lunch break, I went in there and I was like, hi. And I was like, do you fancy meeting? We went to Marks and Spencer's. I'll never forget it. I was like, do you want to go out for a drive? And she's like, yeah, sure. And I was like, well, I don't have long. Do you fancy Marks and Spencer's? And she's like, oh, yes. And we went, it's strange because we went to Woolworths after Marks and Spencer's. Yeah. And then we went, I can't remember where else we went. We went somewhere else and that was it. And she went back to the office. I dropped her back at the office. She got out the car and I sort of drove off, and that was it, out the wagon, and because I was in the wagon. And then the next thing she said, how would you like to come over for a weekend? And I'm like, a weekend? And then her mother came, didn't she? And after the marriage, Mildred and Joyce and Annette, and they were staying with us for a while. And her family, we got to sort of know her family. We found that her brother was a mechanic, and it was weird because we'd gone from Charles the bachelor to Charles the married man, which was a different Charles, because
you always had to look after Daphne, which you did, and
Yeah.
and
But then there was all that goings on. Jack tried to split us up and tried to get us divorced even at one spell, but we won't go into that.
no. But you did get divorced.
We did. She left the company because of Jack.
Yeah.
Because Jack was taking her out places and in his car.
And I never knew about this until I found out afterwards.
Yeah.
See, this, boys and girls, is something we never knew.
Well, they did.
Because she was going, oh, I'll just get off now.
But she stopped coming in for a while. And she said, I want Mr. Ball to sack me. And I was like, he won't. Because Jack will bring you back. That's right. She walked in and she said, I want you to sack me. And I was like, why, Daphne? I don't understand. And she said, just do it. Just take me in the office and tell me I'm sacked. And that was sad. I couldn't do it. I couldn't bring myself to do it because even though she wasn't coming into the company, I you know. Oh, I'm going to get emotional in a minute. But no, see, Daphne and Rosemary never got on.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Rosemary coming into the company. That was interesting.
Yes.
There's a girl called Maureen, but she never got in.
She's the one I'm seeing now. Lovely lady. Lovely lady.
Oh, that Maureen.
Yeah. Maureen.
She's not cheaper than the people with moustaches, is she?
Oh, Maureen. She's cheap.
And I actually know a Maureen, and she's lovely. Anyway.
And by the way, it was weird because when Daphne came into the office, things were calmed down because up to that point, things were sort of heated up. You know, there's fights, there's arguments. So Daphne was in the office more to calm situations down.
Yes.
Which definitely happened. There were less fights after... I can't remember when it was. So, yeah.
And do you remember the time when I got kicked out of Arnside? Because I am going to tell the story on the podcast, but I want it from your perspective, because...
Yeah, well, what I remember was... I remember it was strange because I'd been coming into the office all that week. And I was told that Mr. Ball's coming on the Saturday. And he's going to, there's been some issues and all the rest of it. I was like, oh, there was things spilling out the bag. And then towards the end of the week, it's, you don't work here no more, bang.
Yeah.
And I thought, oh dear, why don't I work here no more? I've been coming, and then...
Because you weren't allowed to go pick your tools up, were you? Or...
Well, I'd had my tools there, but I wasn't going in the office. I was just going to pick tools up and stuff. So it was kind of weird. And I was leaving my van there and my motorbike there. And one week I got charged for leaving the motorbike there, which I can't understand, and leaving the car there, which, I left the van in Church Street in the end because I thought I can't deal with all that. And we had the trailer which had gone down to, it had gone to Ludlow. It gone to. I was thinking about my house then. It gone to Ludlow, to the castle in Ludlow, and had all the gear on it. It had all the stuff that we were doing and all the things were getting installed. And I was due to take 2 diggers down the next day. And I thought, and I knew all about this, but carry on. Yeah, so Steve was panicking like mad, but that was going to happen anyway. I could have ceased the contract, but I didn't know all about that, did I, back then? I didn't know I could cease contracts. So it was weird because you were there that day I had the argument, though. I was downstairs and I just heard a bang. Yeah. I had an argument and then there must have been silence. But it was an awkward silence, and then he came downstairs and I was like, oh, crumbs, what happened? But apparently Steve and his granddad had this feud, which shouldn't have happened. And I feel that the business wasn't Steve's, it was Jack's. Steve was a puppet on a string for a long time. And, Jack was helping Steve to push everybody away. But Steve wasn't doing it. No. I was getting more work. But it's strange because I think Christy and Margaret was behind a lot of it because we didn't get a lot of work for a long time. We had no paperwork. We had no letters sent to us. So why Christy and Margaret? We're told, oh, Christy and Margaret's she's doing all this, and Christy and Margaret's the saviour. Yeah, Christy and Margaret's the Christy and Margaret's the saving grace, which, I don't think she was, somehow. I think Christine Margaret was the tits over arse kind of thing. But she's not here anymore. I know. To kind of, say what you will about it. So, let's talk about our breakup, because you'd had the motorbike crash, you'd left here, we had a row, and it all kind of... How did that make you feel? I know you came to my room and
how did that make you feel? I know you felt bitter for a while. And
I felt betrayed because we were friends for a long time. And all of a sudden, we're having this major row. And I'm thinking, why is Steve having a major row when we could just be, just be civilised? Why couldn't we just be, civilised? And it was a row. It was a shouty row.
yeah.
And we said things that we blamed each other for things, really. Steve started, then I started, and it got worse and worse and worse and worse. And unfortunately, it was so different because I just knew we both said things out of character. I said things out of character. Steve said things out of character. We were totally both out of character. And then I went to Steve's, I can't remember what for. And he said, no, come in, sit on the bed.
Yeah.
I said, what's the brought all this on? I said, look, I best be going. And he said, no, let's put this right. And I was like, well, I'm sorry too.
Yeah.
And I think Steve at that point had just been I think at that point things were changing for Steve. I don't know what was going on in your life.
It was before I went out with Claire. I know it was.
That Claire woman, she was weird.
She's probably listening.
Oh, he gives a anyway. But it needed to happen.
And then you went and worked at the garage and...
Well, I did a stint there. And then it ended up me working there.
Because you used to work there 2 days a week, didn't you? Or 3 days a week, or...
Yeah, and I was working here a little bit when it was the building company. And I fell out with, was it Andy Johnson?
Yeah.
I called him the slave master, which offended him somewhat. And we had an argument, and I just thought, well, we're not friends, we're enemies. And I walked out the door. And learnt he was also my cousin. But, we had to sort of... He doesn't talk about his family. He was... That it was... And he sort of helped me bring the family together again. I didn't know his Tony. I didn't know our Tony. Didn't know those problems happened, with the drugs and everything. So, yeah. So the garage was... Well, Matt was in a bit of a bad way, really. Physically and mentally. So I just went and helped him out. I was there 2 days a week and I was taking people on. And then it ended up where I was there 6 days a week.
And you were doing maintenance, weren't you? And
I was doing maintenance and I was doing all kinds of stuff. And I had a house which I was trying to get rid of, which was in Vaughan Road. not far from Matlock Avenue. But it was a very different time. And then I sold that house, and then I took on another garage, or two other garages, and then I took on 2 garages in Kew. And that took me up to lockdown, and the rest is history, as they say. Well, I got bankrupt in the other garage, but then Mitch and Russ, me and Russ, we went into business again with Mitch, but now I'm retired from the garage, and I only do little jobs for people on cars and do MOCs here and there. I have to go up to the workshop now and then to do stuff, but it's always on those odd occasions. So talk about something which happened. Not to you, but talk about the divorce, and then talk about Carol. Oh gosh. Well, the divorce with Daphne had to happen because I had a friend called Bob, and she had a baby with Bob. Now, I always say it was my fault because I used to go to Russ's.
Notifications.
I used to go to Russ's, and she used to be left alone with Bob. And instead of me being completely blind to... Because she never used to let me go to Russ's. She didn't really let me go to Bob's. I remember one time I was at Bob's, and she calls me on, Charles, where are you? I'm at Bob's. I want you home. You know, that sort of thing. So, and at the time, I was like, oh, I've got to be home and all that kind of thing. So then I get Carol, not Carol, then has a divorce with Daphne because I find her on the couch with Bob. You know, and I walked into the, to the sites that you'd probably imagine, the all that sort of stuff. And I just slammed the door and left them to it. And so I had a massive row with Daphne and Bob on the following day. I had a row with 2 of them. And then I just said, right, that's it, you can have him. I said, you know, if you want him, you can have him. I said, but the baby's not mine. Because we'd had sex 2 weeks prior, but nothing happened properly. Because we went and checked. So I said, if the baby's mine, I'm not interested. But I found out that the baby isn't Bob's. The baby was mine. So, gosh. So, but she had the baby to the other fella that she went, because after Bob died, she went with this other fella. And, but yeah, it's a bit like sort of the situation that I was in with one of my ex-girlfriends. Because we were planning to have, well, I think she wanted kids, and she sacked it off with me because, I don't know. I guess I was too intimate, but we sat down and we really had a good conversation. I mean, you could see eye to eye with those sort of people. I mean,
it's none of my business who people are friends with, but, you know. I mean, you and Daphne stayed friends, didn't you? And, well, we changed the whole thing changed because when her brother died, she knew I was friends with Matt, you see, towards the end, because things changed. And I wasn't so bitter to him because I needed a family, you know. Even though I was married to Carol and her family was horrible. Let's talk about the divorce of Carol, because there wasn't a divorce. Our marriage was quickly annulled or aborted or whatever you want to say. We were supposed to get married and we got to the altar and she got off. She saw the pound signs, you know. Yeah, she saw the pound signs. What does that tell you? You know? And she wanted every part of my savings, which she wasn't having. I'm just putting fill your boots. I don't know if this one will come on or not. No, Mummy's put it off, hasn't she? Let's have it on. All the way, come on. Yeah, so she left me
Four notifications. Four
at
notifications.
the altar, and then she wanted the house off me. Yeah, she wanted everything off me, to the point where I literally had nothing, and ran off to her mum's. And then I got a phone call. Oh, Charlie, you know, I want this, I want that, I want the other. And I said, well, you're not. I says, Daphne, Carol, you're not having this, you're not having that, you're not having the other. You can go and swivel, basically. And we had rows over it. And she tried to make me homeless. I was living in a flat which someone got me it was a useless flat, by the way. It was terrible. And that Steve Oxford found it here, didn't he? Yeah, some dickhead found me this flat. Excuse my French, but I wanted to work on my vehicles in the little garage underneath it, but obviously that was a problem. So I went and decided, right, I'm going to live in my van. Luckily, it was a hot summer, but we went from the hot summer into a cold winter. And boy, that was cold.
Yeah. That was a cold winter. That was a very, very, very cold winter. And I was then not living in the van anymore. And I had thoughts of ending it. And I thought, well, do you know what? There's a river not far from here. I'll jump in the river. And what stopped you was basically, I called Tony saying, look, would you tell all my friends that this is
Five
it.
notifications. Five notifications.
I'm done with everything and I'm just going to drive my van into the river. No, I'm just going to jump into the river. Not going to drive into the river, I'm going to jump into the river. I'm done with it. I said, I think there's a river close by, I'm done with it. I'm going for a swim and I'll see you all soon, something stupid like that. I did used to take, strangely enough, that ditch, I used to have a wash in, strangely enough. So yeah, I've got I've got memories of jumping in the river and, well, no, not jumping in the river, but basically having a wash. But it was at night and it would have been cold and I would have drowned. And I was pretty drunk. I was drinking vast amounts of wine. So Russ and Tony got in their car and they drove as quickly as they could. It was in Russ's car because I don't think Tony had a fast vehicle. Well, he did, but it wasn't fixed up. So Russ basically drove Tony to my van and they broke into that back door where they found me on the floor in a drunken heap with a lot of bottles. And they basically just Tony said, I don't like you living like this kind of thing. I just said, look, let me live in my van, but I'll live outside your house. Which I did. I drove my van to his house and I lived in my van outside his house. A bit like Callum, didn't he? Oh, Callum was weird. He used to have two vans and anyway. So that was that story. But let's keep on track here because this is really important. So Tony had literally, I was at my house one day and he says, can I have a look at your van? I says, yeah, sure, no problem. And he literally opened every cupboard to see what food I had in there. There's loads of tin stuff. He turns around to me and says, you're eating proper food. Well, to be honest with you, I knew how to cook on the road and I was having chippy teas, so it wasn't like I wasn't eating anything. But I was drinking a lot of alcohol or consuming a lot of alcohol. And I think what people don't seem to realise is that they don't seem to look at the dark side. They think that life is all glorious all the way. And you were doing me a brow up at the time as well, weren't you? No. Not at that time. Oh, I think I might have been doing. Yeah, because I drove up to me.
5 notifications. 5 notifications.
I drove up to Mayflower and got all the concreting finished off. But I've always been over the summer to Mayflower. Just when the summer was here, because in those days it was the garden and the driveway and everything. And now I'm doing all the house, all the inside, which is an all year round job. But I've then got this other bloody place in Rufford. And it's huge. It's a massive farmhouse. So when do you sell Mayor Brow or? Well, soon, but I've got to go through. See, there's a lot of work to done, and people can do what they want with the house once. You know, I've done it, and I've got it all to how I want it. Well, I'll have it to how I want it because I've got to fit kitchens and bathrooms and goodness knows what. So yeah. I don't know how we've got onto the conversation of Mia Brow, but well, it was Travis's house and we'd had it promised to us for a while, but I got a call from Daphne's family and they says, oh, we got this house that we don't want. These houses that we don't want. So I was like, oh, well, we were promised them a while ago. And we had Brow on the one in Rufford and there was another one, but I think I'm just going to concentrate on the one in Maybrow. Really. Just for the viewers on the podcast, is there anything that you wished, you know, looking back, is there anything you wish you could have done better or, you know, anything that you could have? I always wish that I could have left the building company a lot earlier and done the garage and done that and then learned to be a motorbike mechanic. You know, because I was in that, you know, I was always doing a trade for a bit long. But it's like being a delivery driver or a taxi driver, and people say, "Oh, it's a rubbish job," but I quite like the idea of doing that next. So who knows? You know, having a driving job. You know, a motorbike job would be good. I could drive everywhere on my motorbike. But, I'm going to America. I was going to say, tell people about your big plans. Well, I'm going to America year after next. Because I've now got my visa, and basically it was through Tony, and I basically have to take this opportunity with both hands, because if I love life over there, I can actually go and live over there, and that can be my new chapter.
Yeah.
And I can just, because I technically England is one of those places where if it's boring, that's it. You're right, you're stacking shelves in your house, and then, you're looking for another house to stack shelves in, and then you're wondering what to do with your time, and that's retirement. Technically, I'm doing little jobs on cars, and that's going to keep me going. So, and it's like once you retire, you can do so much more. But I've got to go to America and get all this stuff done in America. I go on a 3-year course. I'm working on a power station in America, which is a privatized company. The guy who had the power station off Tony, he was going to sell it, and Tony said, no, you're not selling it. And then the other company I'm working for is a company that makes, they don't make, they've got these huge industrial vehicles, and I'll be fixing them, fixing all these huge trucks, and these huge railway vehicles, all industrial. So yeah, that'll be good. And a lot of that I know, some of it I know, some of it I don't. So it's all, there is going to be some of it that's new, but and then I've got, some perks of the job.
So the power stations, you're walking around, aren't you? And
yeah, it's more or less you walk around, you basically tick the things you don't like and tick the things you like, and you're very thorough. But as Tony said, don't just say things because they want you to hear it. He says, put things down. If there is something wrong, tell them. Because once that goes to office, that's it. So, but the lads there that do it, because there's quite a few inspectors, they go around. There's a team that goes around, and they go to certain bits, and you're there on the island for 2 days. And it's literally like these lads, it's like a holiday for some of them. Yeah. And so they'll go a day before, and then they'll stay there for a day, and then they'll go back the next day. You get flown over by helicopter, you stay in an apartment there. I've got a nice car on there that'll drive, but I'm thinking I might put the Cadillac on there, depending on. But I've got to drive from North Carolina to. I've forgotten where it is now. I know I'm in San Francisco for a day. And then once I've said, when the power station job's finished, I'm gonna go and work in Mexico. Wow, for 6 months, because they've given me that as well. I'm like, oh, yes, take it. So yeah, it's a new chapter of my life.
Who knows? Charles will be talking about his update.
Yeah, I'll have to give an update, won't I, now, to the what it's like to live in America. And
Yeah. There's loads of guns over there and loads of...
well, there's a thing on the island. You're allowed to carry a gun.
Wow.
When I'm on the island, I'm allowed to carry a gun, so I can have a gun in my car, and the police can't stop me because it's a privatised island. I shouldn't be telling you this. The police can't stop me. And
So you can speed along the island.
well, the island's privatised. It's a privatised island. So yeah, and there's not a lot of us that live on that island. It's quite remote. So, I mean, you sort of drive responsibly to certain places, but I dare say there's some places where people do race along it and stuff. But it's mainly policed by the community and stuff, so if I was to get fined, it'd be by somebody in the, that's living on the island that thinks I'm driving disrespectfully, so they'll fine me for it, which is only fair. But I can carry a gun around the island and no one's gonna, and I can also have a gun on my property.
Are you going to have a gun on...
Well, no, I'm not going to have a gun on the property, but I will have a little handgun in the car. Handy to have, But you don't want to be carrying guns everywhere.
No.
Not a good thing. Not a good thing.
No.
But I get flown over by... excuse me. I get flown over by helicopter. And I get brought back by helicopter.
Five notifications.
Is it getting
Five
warm, this
notifications.
radiator? Oh, yeah. Oh, Charles, you can lean on the radiator. Oh, get warm, lad.
Get warm.
Yeah.
I am cold.
But literally,
We put it on. So, Charles, what's your message to people on the podcast? Since people have asked, my message to people on the podcast is enjoy life. No, seriously. It's enjoy life. There isn't a time you should, there isn't a, grow old and whatever it is. I mean, I thought I was going to retire to somewhere and do what, and it's strange because, and I feel like, hey, I'm going to retire differently. I'm going to have a better life. I'm going to, I'm still going to have my motorbikes. I'm still going to be faffing around with motorhomes and doing jobs for other people. That's not going to change. It's like Steve's going to have a different life. Yeah. You don't mind me mentioning, but you're going to go into supported living. Yes, I am. I'm going to go into supported living. Hence why my other YouTube channel has not, it's the vlogs aren't happening on my other channel at the moment. But I'm not doing a Kevin Chapman. There's a reason why I can't vlog. There's a reason, but I mean, I got a bit of annoyed with him today because his vlog went nice. He had Andy on it, on the vlog. Not imaginary Andy. His son, Andy, on it. And I thought that was going good. It was going all nice. And then all of a sudden, he had to ruin it at the end. Going, oh, this is this, blah, blah, blah. I'm thinking, bloody hell. I can't wait until... I'm going to go on my other TikTok and I'll comment on there because I'll just put... Your YouTube video was going good there, pal. The one with Andy in the CBeebies Hotel. But at the very end, you had to ruin it in my eyes. When you said, oh, we're not bringing Andy back to the vlog or whatever it was. Whatever it was, it spoilt it for me. Yeah. And it did. But anyway. So, Charles, what's... anything else you want to say to wrap up the interview? Or I think everyone's been asking for this interview, and every time we've done it, it's just gone boobies up. Boobies up. What's it like working with me now? Oh yeah, working with Steve now is an absolute gem, I've got to say. Even though we don't get to work with each other properly these days, because you're always here or you're always in a boiler suit. Yeah. You're always up a ladder somewhere. So, well, I won't be, no, I will be tomorrow. You will be, because we need all hands on deck tomorrow. And I'm measuring and sanding and sawing, and I've got lots to do. In the till, I'm not even checking till I know what's actually going on with everything else first. So, because I've got to come back and once I've been to the church and I've been to Rosebank and everything else, I've got to get all the adverts finished for the end of the week, and then I've got a meeting at the end of the week. I've got the new office at the end of the week, and the following week, will you be vlogging that or? Well, I'll see. I probably won't be allowed to, so there will be pictures though. So yeah. And if people are wondering, like me and Steve, how we got to work together again, which he said we wouldn't, he got a desk off his auntie gig and a workbench off his mother, and then his uncle died, and it was like, well, should we work together? And we're like, yeah, why not? And it's changed the chapter, hasn't it? It has. But But stuff's happened. And it's changed Steve's life, and then I got asked to go over to America, which changed my life. And I turned around to Charles and said, "Don't let me stop you going to America," which I wouldn't do. No. I wouldn't have. And I was dead serious about it as well. I said, "Don't let me stop you going to America, because this might only ever be the one chance you ever get." Anyway, folks, that is it. And I'm sure you've had enough of me and Charles waffling on about certain things. I'm sure we'll come on again if people want this material, or if you want Andy talking about his security company, and you should do a big interview, long interview with Andy. Yeah, I think people would want that, but I don't think it wasn't till 2021 where me and Andy sort of gelled together properly, whereas we've gelled together way, way, way before COVID. Way before. Well, that's it. We still haven't told a lot of stories. No. Well, Jack was a very interesting character. I mean, so many tales from the vaults we could do about Jack alone. Yeah. Because he was part of the office, would you say? But he could also be, towards the end of years of the company, a bit of a chocolate teapot, And obviously that's, the reason why, him and Steve, towards the end of the years of the company, from what I saw, they didn't see eye to eye. I think they were friends, but towards the last 2 months, it was. And he also had a girlfriend as well, who a lot of us didn't like. I didn't know you didn't like her. Well, anyway.
5 notifications.
That's it anyway.
9:31 p.m. 07. PQRS. 8. TUV. Close. Button. Mic trigger. But mic lock. Finish recording. But finish recording.